November 2011, Arthur Vigeant became Marlborough's 40th mayor. He's 2 months now into his first term. We stopped by his home to talk to him about growing up in Marlborough and also what he sees for the future of our city. So let's start first, Arthur, with, the local boy becomes mayor. You grew up in Marlborough. How much has it changed since you grew up here?
Well, it's kind of funny when you're sitting here and you hear for all your life, the changes kind of happen, and unless someone brings it up, you don't realize how much has changed over the years. We used to, up the street, right next to the cemetery in Pleasant Street, we used to go to an ice cream stand there. There was a big old ice cream stand that was there, and we went there as kids. There was no trombetas back then, so that's just one thing down here that's changed. The whole area has changed so much with the industrial park and Maple Street, and it really had a lot of growth over the 50 years, obviously, that I've been here.
What was teenage Arthur Vigeant like?
Not like Mayor Arthur Vigeant, that's for sure. No, had a lot of fun and pushed the envelope a little bit. Dad was always on my back, but somehow we made it through. And with my 2 brothers and my 3 sisters, we've all done pretty well for ourselves. So we're all still around here, and we had a lot of fun though growing up.
Did you aspire when you were younger to stay in Marlborough? I mean, did you ever picture that?
Well, we're a pretty close family.
Yeah.
Have a lot of relatives around, although a lot of my cousins have moved off to different parts of the state. Some moved up to New Hampshire or Maine or Paxton, or so different areas. But the rest, my immediate family is all still in Marlborough. One sister over in Northborough, so it's not too far. And I guess it wasn't intentional. It's more something like, we're always together. We're always, stopping in at Mom and Dad's house. Dad passed away a couple of years ago, but we still pop in and check on Mom. Someone's down there every day, so just keeping an eye on things.
What about the aspirations to join the local political life? Did you aspire to that at a younger age too?
Absolutely
Did you think you
nothing.
wanted to?
No interest, no discussions. I started getting involved a little bit with former Mayor Mike Hogan, working with him actually as his finance chair when he ran a couple races, and I was pretty young back then. Mm-hmm. Helped him hold some signs and shake some hands, but only on rare occasions. He had appointed me to a downtown committee, and I had been appointed to the City Retirement Board. And when he was leaving town to go work for Governor Weld, convinced me to run for City Council that year. And I wasn't excited about getting into the political thing.
Yeah.
People look to turn over any stone they can. They keep doing it until they find something. But I've been vetted pretty well at this point, but it wasn't an aspiration. It wasn't a childhood thing. It wasn't a high school thing. It was just something that kind of came up. And once I did get involved, I really enjoyed it, and still enjoy it today.
Yeah. Did you? What was your opinion back then before you got into the council? What was your opinion of councillors? Were you angry with some, or do you think you just didn't understand because you didn't have the experience that you have 18 years later?
No, I didn't really pay attention a lot.
Yeah.
It wasn't one of those things that I was watching meetings for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Once he convinced me to run, I started knocking on doors. It was probably the first week of May in 1993. For the election in November of '93. So I started early, knocked on a lot of doors that summer. People all summer long were asking me what I was doing there. The election wasn't going to be until November, but I was a new face, maybe a recognizable name to some that knew other members in the family. But I wanted to get out there and introduce myself to the public. And once I did get there, it's a different world than city government or state government or federal government. It's not like running my office on Main Street or running a regular business with 1,200 employees and a $125 million budget. It has a lot more rules than you have in the business world, and I think that's one of the things we're finding in the recent years, that I think government's trying to put a lot of these rules on private businesses and private industry, and you know, they should be able to work on the rules they need to work on to get the job done.
That's been well known that you would take new councillors under your wing and try and show them, you know, how things go. Yeah. Was there a councillor or two like that for you when you first joined?
Actually, it was interesting. The council was completely different back then. We didn't worry about open meeting law issues because councillors didn't show up to committee meetings unless they were on the committee. Mm-hmm. We'd have budget hearings, you know, that you would go through the budget with the 5 finance committee members, and that was it. No one else was there. No other councillors were there. Mm-hmm. It wasn't such a big deal, and councillors would show up if they had a committee meeting or the council meeting, but that would be it. Former solicitor and councillor Jim Agaritzis was a big help to me. Bill Morrow was a big help to me over the years. Mm-hmm. You know, so these are guys that were on the council, but I wasn't like, I didn't know much about it at all. In fact, the joke with Karen Bully and myself was, after I was elected and sworn in on that Monday morning, or Monday morning, I think it was, mm-hmm. I thank you very much and went back to my office. It was probably about a week and a half later, she called me and said, you know, are you coming back over here? And I said, sure. What do I need to do? And she said, well, you have a meeting Monday night and your mailbox is completely full. Oh, okay. And she started showing me the ropes at that time. So it was a quick learning process. Mm-hmm. Bill Morrow made me the chair of Personnel Committee before I even knew what I was doing, and so I jumped right in pretty quickly. I got right into my first budget, and like I said, I really enjoyed it ever since. But it was a quick learning curve, but I didn't go in there with 5 friends or 2 or 3 close people that, I mean, I knew Joe Munno, I had just met Herman Hudson, Jim Agaritzis was on the council back then. With, you know, Dennis Hunt was just being re-elected again to the council. So it was a good group of people. Very, very different than today, though. Mm-hmm. It was. I kind of tell people, you know, there was 4 and 5 on each side, and bombs would fly every meeting, you know. and I can't say it wasn't fun. It was a lot of fun, but we didn't get as much done as we do today. Mm-hmm. Today, I think the council gets a lot of stuff done. The personal attacks don't exist anymore. We pushed all that to the side, and you know, we can argue about business or city issues, but not about personal issues. And I think that happened way too often back then.
Mm-hmm. Dennis Hunt once told me that it's tough to make the decisions because you make some people happy and other people angry. But 18 years on the council, you obviously found more positive than negative in your time there. Can you talk about that?
Well, I think from the results of the last election, you know, I've obviously run into that, where every decision you make, you know, you make some friends and you make some people unhappy. And someone told me that right after the election. You know, 18 years ago, you took your first vote, you made some new supporters, and you made your first enemies. And it was sobering to hear that, but it was true. I mean, people don't always like what you make for decisions. Some don't understand why you make the decisions. The council, the school committee, the mayor, all elected officials have probably more information than the average person. So, you know, when I reflect on decisions made in Boston, I say the same thing. Mm-hmm. But sometimes there's a reason for the decisions made. But in Washington, we have no say. You know, we really don't have much of a say. Down at the State House, we still have a little bit of a say. Mm-hmm. And you know, Jamie Eldridge and Steve Levy, and before them, Steve LeDuc and Bob Durant, they bring back the information they want you to hear for the most part, the good stuff. Mm-hmm. Here in local government, you're under the microscope every day. you know, when we make a decision the night before, it's in the paper today. You know, so you can't hide from your good decisions or your bad decisions. And as I'm sure Dennis looked at it, you know, we're making decisions about our neighbors and our friends and our relatives and people we see every day. And that's what makes it very difficult. When you try to be above board and you know, it affects someone next door to you. So that's the part, it's difficult to do. And I've always tried to be open and honest about decisions, and some have been harder than others.
Take us through your process of thinking, okay, this is the time for me to run for mayor. Why did you now as opposed to later or before that, previously?
I think at this point it was, I want to continue the things I'm doing. Mayor Stevens had decided she wasn't running. For the most part, she had made the decision, even though she hadn't been public with it. And I wanted to continue the things I've been doing on the council. You can make recommendations. You can try to persuade the mayor or the councillors to go in a certain direction for projects we were looking at. But you're not the person that's, you know, taking the charge and leading it and saying, this is where we're going next. And I felt that was important. You know, if we're talking about moving forward a senior center, or a library, or projects in the industrial park, or the old landfill site, these are things I really enjoy digging into. And I wasn't the one making the decision. I was kind of leading things for prior mayors on what they wanted to do. Good projects, but maybe I would have chose something a little bit different. So it was the right time for me in my personal life, with my family, with my business. My wife and I talked about it a few times. I talked to some supporters and friends, and it was the right time for me to run. So, you know, we got a lot of work done last summer. Met a lot of people. I had a lot of people supporting me and a lot of people working for me, and I'm going to pay that back for them for the next 2 years and make people understand that I represent all 39,000 people, the ones that supported me and the ones I need to persuade in the next 2 years.
Yeah. Let's go back to election night.
Yeah.
When you found out the final votes were in and you had won, what did that feel like?
Well, people were celebrating a lot sooner than I was.
Yeah.
I had to leave because I wasn't going to sit there and wait for results to come in. So I took off from the office, and my sister, who was my campaign manager, gave me a call. It was probably, I don't know, 8:15 or 8:30. It was pretty early. And she was confident, and the results were coming in by runners that we had at the different locations. And I said, well, has the clerk decided yet? And she said, no, but we have good numbers. And it's like, oh boy, you know, with anything that close, good numbers, you know, don't always mean how they appear. And so I got back there and kind of looked in the office to see how faces were, and you know, people like Rob Seymour and Sean Fay, who really stuck next to me the whole time, were standing there, and they were, you know, laughing and smiling, and it was like, okay, did we hear from the clerk yet? No, not yet. And they wanted me to go over to a little celebration we were having, and I said, I'm not going anywhere until I've heard from the clerk. And Rob finally sent everyone away and convinced me, let's go over to City Hall and we'll wait there. So we went over there, and when she came out, it was a relief, but I knew there was also a time where there was an opportunity for a recount. So until that timeline had passed, it wasn't the big sigh of relief. But we had worked real hard, and you know, congratulate my opponent for the hard work he put into it, and you know, we'll looking forward to working with him and everyone else for the next couple of years.
Going to Inauguration Day, you mentioned in your speech that you acknowledged the closeness of that election. There have been closer elections, believe it or not, for Marlborough, but how how long will that stay in the back of your head, the matter of how many votes it was?
Well, I like I said, proven to the people out there that weren't supporters, and I've talked to some of them. Some people I was surprised about that we've had conversations about since January 2nd. And just, you know, I'm not asking for any commitments from you. All I'm asking you to do is work with me and then have maybe a different opinion 2 years from now if we decide to move forward at that time. But, you know, I want to look out for the best interests of the city of Marlborough, 39,000 people, 21 square miles. I want to make this the greatest place in the country to live in, and I want to work with whoever can move that in the right direction. I think I've surprised a lot of people by, you know, my selection for aide and my secretary, by actually going out and looking for the best people. You know, Mike's done a great job. He was a former aide to a representative in Boston, and Tricia's been phenomenal as my executive secretary. Broken in by Diane Halper, the best. I guess she learned from Ray Poole, who's obviously, I guess, you could say she designed that position up there, and Diane picked up where she left off. It was great to have her on board, you know, to teach Trish the job, and you know, it's just I'm really working to make people understand that I'm in this for the best interests of the city, not for the best interests of me. You know, hopefully they coincide, but you know, the city's #1 priority for me.
When did it first hit you that, yeah, I am mayor? I mean, was it election night? Was it inauguration day? Was it last week?
No, I would say probably inauguration day. You know, it was, or maybe even the day after, showing up there, and it's like, okay, now what? Now, what are we going to do? In the first, I gave Mark Leonard and Fred Flynn kind of a heads up that I need a meeting immediately for emergency responses. Are we okay if something happens? You know, so we sat down, spent about an hour with the two of them and Don Cuson, and it's like, I just want to make sure that if something happens, we're ready to go. The rest we can work on over time, but you know, if we have a big disaster, a big storm, or you know, if we're invaded by Hudson or something, you know, whatever the issue is, we have the plan in place to take care of it. And once I had the comfort level from them, you know, it was a little sigh of relief. And you know, maybe even at that time, it was looking back and saying, you know, I guess that's the time when I realized that, you know, I'm there and we got a job to do. So.
Those Hudson people are tricky.
You got to watch out, you know. It's like that, the bell, you know, that we gave Hudson away. If we decide to take it back someday, you know, you never know what's going to happen. So.
What's it like now not being in the council chamber as council president? Is that strange or what?
That's definitely strange. It's I think Mayor Stevens, former Mayor Stevens, said it the first night, you know, councilors, 2 or 3 or 5 of us, or whoever wants to, you know, run out for a quick bite after a meeting. It's kind of like an open invitation for any councilors that want to come. And like I said, sometimes there were 2 of us, sometimes there were 11 of us. And the first meeting after the meeting, when, you know, Nancy didn't get asked to come with us, it was like, what do you mean? So it was lonely walking out of City Hall that first night. It was a quick meeting. They all left, and you know, I guess I set the rules. It was kind of it was one of those vetting processes for the councilors, just to get out and relax a little bit. And it was, for almost every time, just the councilors, and Karen. Yeah. She's more of a counselor than any of us anyway. She's, like I say, she's got more votes than any of us have. So, but it was a vetting just to relax and let your hair down a little bit. And you know, it happened before I got there, going out with, you know, Bill Morrow and Herman Hudson and Joe Munno, and then we started going with Jim Agaritzis and Dennis Hunt and Jim Peltikas, and You know, so it's been different people over the years, but I think I've had it the last few years that whoever wants to come can come, and but that first night not being invited to go out with all my former colleagues is a reality check. But that's, you know, they got a job to do. I've been at all the meetings and intend on continuing to be at the meetings. I sit up in the balcony. I don't sit down on the floor. Department heads are coming as needed, sitting up in the balcony to be there. Any requested department head or person that the council needs there to decide an issue will be there. But my feeling is they need to have their meeting without my influence. And you know, the other night I was going to run down with a couple things, and it was kind of like, it's their meeting, it's not my meeting. You know, this is their room, not my room.
Yeah. And you've got budget coming up too, so have you started meeting with your department heads on that? We
have. In fact, Tom Abel and I have discussed it with Diane Smith, the auditor. We have a meeting set up, or my secretary is actually setting up a meeting with Mike Ossing to kind of get things on track. I think with Mike in place and Tom and Diane and myself, it's not rocket science, the budget, you know. We've been through it enough times together that I think we should be able to put it together. Looking forward to sitting down with all the department heads. I've already sat down with all of them. We've already had department head meetings. I just want to give them an opportunity to sit one-on-one and discuss what they see as the future of their departments too. You know, changes they'd like to see, things they want to do differently. You know, it's important to take a look at things now and then and see if there's a better way to do it. We had a mayor's meeting in the governor's office. He was great. Brought all the new mayors in, and then after he was done, we spent an hour with him and Lieutenant Governor, and then he brought all his secretaries in one at a time for a half hour. Transportation Secretary came in, Secretary Davies, and had a button on. And after he was done, it's, you know, okay, anyone have any questions, or can I help and do anything? I said, excuse me, Mr. Secretary, can I get one of those buttons? And it says, but that's the way we've always done it, with a big line across it. Yeah. And I have that he gave me one, he gave all of us one after that. And I have it in my office, and, you know, I want to challenge the department heads to see, is there a better way to, you know, do what they're doing? You know, maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but at least we have to ask the question.
Yeah. And what are you looking forward to now? We're basically in the 7th week of you being mayor for the rest of 2012 and on to 2013. What are you looking most forward to?
Well, I think we'll get through the budget process, and like I said, I'm expecting a smooth process. I think it'll go rather smoothly, whether they make reductions or they don't. You know, I'm not going to take it personally, and department heads need to know they're not taking it personally. We have some great things we're moving forward on. The selection committee for the fire chief is working right now. They've had 2 meetings, and they'll be interviewing in the next week, and hopefully they come through with their decision on the leader for the fire department. We have the selection committee reviewing the proposals for the senior center. Looking forward to getting their report back and moving forward with the senior center. Also expecting a report from Lynn Faust that's been heading up the Human Services. Her and Rob Seymour that headed up the task committee for Mayor Stevens, coming up with a report on their recommendations and moving that forward. We have a proposal coming in for a $62 million addition to the Assabet Valley Technical High School. So it's something where councilors are kind of hemming and hawing, you know, do we approve it now? Do we wait till other communities approve it? It's a big addition. Continuing the treatment plants, one we're finishing up in hopefully June. That one will be completed on the west. We're just starting the one on the east. We're going to be going through the whole thing again. We've already approved $100 million in upgrades to both of those. And great things in the industrial park. I mean, we have a couple vacant buildings that house over 1.2 million square feet, and we've been working with the owners and with potential tenants for those spaces, and I think we're going to see some great things coming out of there in the next few months. So it's going to be a busy year. Looking forward to it. You know, it's just continually keeping the dialogue going with department heads, so they know where I'm coming from, and I know where they're going, and keeping an open dialogue with the city council also. I think it's important to, as long as those 11 councillors are happy, we can get a lot of stuff done. So, and to make them happy, they need information. If they provided the information they need, they don't have to agree with you, but we're not going to get into the toe-to-toe bouts over it, you know. So providing them the information they need to make the appropriate decisions is #1 priority. And I've told department heads, you know, they're going to respect the councillors, and vice versa. You know, I want department heads being respected by the council, and like I said, not make it personal. We've got that off the council a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, Mayor, thank you for letting us in your home today. Appreciate it.
It's great. Great.
We look forward to talking to you more down the road.
Well, hopefully, anytime you have a few minutes and want to pop in, we'll be glad to have you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.